What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, covering your Kansas City Chiefs. And today, I'm here to break down the Kansas City Chiefs 20-14 loss to the Las Vegas Raiders at home in Week 16. The Kansas City Chiefs now fall to 9-6 on the 2023 season. And look, guys, I've been screaming it from the mountaintops for a while now. This team just isn't very good. I don't know what more there is to say. Of course, I'm going to say a lot more in this video, but it's really not going to be any different than the stuff we've been saying since week freaking 1 of the NFL season, guys. I mean, this is the Chiefs' 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth loss since the bye week. They've lost 4 out of their last 6 games. 4 out of their last 6, guys. Like, seriously think about that. And that's after the bye week. Since the bye week, the Chiefs have lost 4 of their last 6 games. I just don't know what more you guys need to see. You know, the optimistic fans that are still out there that swear up and down that this team is going to get it figured out. I don't know what more you need to see to finally admit that this team cannot make a postseason run. Like, we are talking about the Chiefs still losing the AFC West. That can still happen. And honestly, it's not off the table for me. Like, even yesterday, I tweeted that out after the game, and I had people saying, shut up, you're stupid, they're not losing the AFC West. If I was putting money down, would I bet that they lose the AFC West? All they have to do is win one more game, and they pretty much have it. But the fact that they weren't even able to clinch the AFC West yesterday when they had a chance to against a Raiders team that just isn't very good. You know, they've improved since Antonio Pierce took over as head coach, but they're still a team with a losing record. They're a team that in Week 16 of the NFL season you should still be beating. Guys, Aiden O'Connell, the starting quarterback for the Raiders, he's a backup. He hasn't even been their starter for most of the season. And he did not complete a pass for 3 quarters, and you still lost the game. What are we doing here? Typically, Chiefs teams of years past are playing their best football by this time of the year, not going backwards. But since the bye week, this team has gone backwards. And everyone swore up and down, again, that they were going to get it figured out and that, you know, it's Mahomes and Reed and they'll get it together before the end of the season. The end of the season is in a couple weeks, and there has not been an inch of progress made by this team since week 1. Not an inch of progress has been made. Like, I don't know if you people are understanding that. If this team had shown in a few games this year the level that they can be at when they take a game seriously, then I would have been like, okay, we've seen it, so I know that they're capable of it. We haven't seen it all year. 16 weeks through the season, we have not seen it from them. We cannot get a consistently good offensive performance out of this team in a given week. It's just they're not capable of it. They can't break 20 points on a consistent basis. It's been a struggle for them to hit 20 points all year. And what did I say a couple weeks ago when we lost to the Buffalo Bills and everyone was like, oh, well, you know, you look at the schedule, they're going to win out. And I'm like, I don't know, guys. You can't really guarantee any wins because what did I say? When you turn the ball over at an exponential rate and you can't break 20 points in a game, you can lose to anybody. And that's exactly what happened. You can lose to anybody because the Chiefs offense turned the ball over multiple times that resulted in a defensive touchdown for the Raiders. The Raiders scored 2 touchdowns in like 20 seconds off a pick 6 and then a fumble by Patrick Mahomes. This stuff cannot be happening this late in the year. And the Chiefs are tied with the Washington football team, the Washington Commanders, whatever you call them now, tied for dead last in the league in turnover differential. This team does not have the makings of a championship caliber team. They just don't. And I don't know how you can. It's like everyone just keeps sitting there waiting for it to happen, waiting to see this Chiefs team finally hit their stride, get in rhythm, and the offense comes to life, and everyone's like, okay, yeah, this is These are the Chiefs that we know and love. They're here. They're still here. They're still capable of that. We just haven't seen it from them all year long, and I don't think it's coming. Now let's talk a little bit more about the issues on offense. Most of them are the same thing. Wide receiver drops, wide receivers not being able to get open. That's been mostly the problem all year long. And then even the guys that the Chiefs look to depend on, like Travis Kelce, he just can't seem to get his head out of his you-know-what. He's out there dropping passes too, and he's supposed to be the leader of this team. Now, I've said since before the season started that it was irresponsible to put this much responsibility on the shoulders of a 34-year-old tight end. But, he is the guy. He is the go-to guy on this team. And the past several years, he's been Mahomes' security blanket on third down. But that inevitable feeling of Mahomes and Kelce pulling a rabbit out of a hat, it just isn't there this year. And then outside of him, there isn't a reliable go-to guy. Rashee Rice clearly is the most talented, but I don't think he's got that level of trust yet with Patrick Mahomes. Even he still is having issues. There was a play yesterday, I believe it was on a third down. It was a simple little hitch route to Rashee Rice. Mahomes throws it, and Rice is completely in the wrong spot and doesn't know what's going on, and so the ball whizzes right past him. And then even Patrick Mahomes, and it's hard to blame Patrick Mahomes. He is certainly not the problem this year, but yesterday was just a bad game from him. I mean, there's no way around it. He floated a terrible pass. I believe it was to Justin Watson at the sideline that got returned for a pick six by Jack Jones, who was cut by the Patriots earlier this year. That just cannot happen. And then the horrible miscue with the handing off, a stupid trick play. And it's like, that trick play really pissed me off too, because, and I know people are going to say, well, you just hate the trick play because it didn't work, because there was a trick play not long before that where they scored a touchdown with Isaiah Pacheco being the Wildcat quarterback. And I get that, but when you have a team as undisciplined as the Chiefs, I don't think you should be trusting them to run trick plays if they can't even line up correctly at the line of scrimmage. Like, this team can't even get the little basic, most fundamental things about football correct, and we're supposed to be running trick plays now, and that's the result you get. And that also goes on Coach Andy Reid, because he just seems to have no grasp on this team at all. Coaching is a massive issue with this team. The play calling is not great. The wide receivers seem to have no idea what they're doing. I looked at the snap counts this morning. MVS played far and away the most snaps of any wide receiver on this team. 0 catches for 0 yards in that game. Why? Why do we keep doing this with MVS? Why do we continue to put our worst players on the field and take Rashee Rice off the field on third down? Like, this team just does it to themselves sometimes. And even Patrick Mahomes was basically out there calling his own plays yesterday. Mahomes is frustrated as hell. You can tell on the sidelines. He's screaming at guys. He's done the motivational speeches. He's throwing his helmet around and his jacket on the ground. Doesn't seem to matter. Nothing gets fixed. Nothing has changed. Week 16 of the NFL season, nothing has changed about this team. The defense only gave up 1 touchdown yesterday, but that was all the Raiders needed because this offense is so freaking bad. Aiden O'Connell, that is who you lost to yesterday in week 16 of the NFL season. You cannot, if you are a serious team, a serious contender, you cannot be losing to Aiden O'Connell in week 16 of the NFL season. It just can't happen. And now, since you did, there's a scenario in which the Chiefs lose out, the Raiders win out, and the Raiders then would be the AFC West champions. And it's just, that's on the table for me still. I don't think you can look at a game left on the Chiefs' schedule and be like, well, there's no way they lose that. Because, once again, when you turn over the ball at an exponential rate and you can't score points, you can lose to anybody. And hopefully you guys will finally start to realize that. Even the people that have disagreed with me all season long and have said that this team will get it figured out. And Travis Kelce, I'm sure will go on new heights again and be like, it's on me, guys. We'll get it fixed. This offense is way too talented. I'm so sick and tired of hearing that from him. And even he acknowledged on his podcast that he sounds like a broken record. But at some point, you just got to stop the theatrics and be honest about this team. And unfortunately, those weren't the only problems on offense yesterday. The offensive line was absolutely god-awful. Mahomes maybe ran around more in that game under pressure and under duress than he did in Super Bowl 55. That was pretty close. I mean, Jawan Taylor, absolutely whipped up on. Wanya Morris, he clearly is not ready to be the starting left tackle of this football team. He surprised nicely. I don't think he's ready for this big of a role, and I think he's going to get owned by some of the upper tier pass rushers in this league in those matchups. He's just not ready for that yet. And so now the tackles are an issue again. And I really liked the Jawan Taylor signing when it happened, but for some reason it just hasn't worked out. I don't know why. He was a Pro Bowl level player in Jacksonville, and this year he can't seem to stop committing penalties. And yesterday was just flat out bad pass blocking wise. The Raiders were able to get pressure on Mahomes just about whenever they wanted, and Mahomes, he was able to escape pressure like he typically does. He's good at doing that, but even after all that, there was just nobody ever open. And Mahomes made some bad throws. He made some bad decisions. I know there was a play, I think in the first half, where he had a wide open field. I think it was before the fake punt. He had a wide open field in front of him to run for a first down, but in typical Mahomes fashion, he just had that urge to throw it, and he threw it to MVS, I think it was, and he wasn't even open. And it's like, dude, look at the field in front of you. You had a wide open first down, and instead they had to run a fake punt just to get a first down because Mahomes couldn't make that smart decision. He just did not look good yesterday. Again, I'm not trying to pin blame on him because I think he's the least of the Chiefs' problems this year. I think the front office has done him a complete disservice with the team that they put around him. And it really all boils down to that and this team's absolute refusal to add a veteran wide receiver in the offseason. I just think it all goes back to that. If this team just had a reliable veteran, a one or a two that Mahomes knew he could trust in, a third down situation or a goal to go situation, it would help tremendously. And I don't think we'd be talking about all these issues. But since they didn't do that, and since you don't have a Juju Smith-Schuster type of player on this year's team, these are the results that you get. And Brett Veach has to wear this one, man. I mean, this is a complete waste of a year of Patrick Mahomes' prime. And I saw somebody on Twitter say something to the effect of, it's not a wasted year just because we don't win the Super Bowl. The Chiefs were never going to win it every year. They're not going to rip off 10 straight. And I don't think anyone is expecting that. Certainly not myself. But what makes it a wasted year is that everybody knows that this team is a first-round exit in the playoffs. And that's if they make it at this point. Nobody sees this team going anywhere. This year hasn't been fun to watch. Every game has been a struggle where I've considered turning off the TV at different points. That is a wasted year of Patrick Mahomes. Just because they don't win the Super Bowl doesn't necessarily make it a wasted year. It's a Super Bowl or bust year, so it's disappointing when you don't win a Super Bowl. But, there's no shame in making an AFC championship game. And there's no shame in making a deep playoff run, but not quite closing it out in the end. Because they're not going to do it every year. I think most of us acknowledge that. Most realistic fans acknowledge that. But to not even give this team a chance, to not even give Mahomes a proper set of weapons, to make fans spend money to watch this team put out a piss poor effort on Christmas Day. People went to the Chiefs game yesterday with that being their Christmas present, and that's the performance that we get. Inexcusable from this organization. They know better than that, and it's just sad to watch. Patrick Mahomes' stats are down this year. The long ball is completely eliminated from this offense. Travis Kelce looks old and slow. That's what makes it a wasted year. Not just because they're not going to win the Super Bowl, but because it's just been a miserable, miserable year. Something else that I woke up to yesterday, though, that I hadn't really talked about this season is I think the Kansas City Chiefs need a new running back one. And that's not to say that I don't love Isaiah Pacheco and that he's not a good player. He is. And I know yesterday was only his first game back from injury, but my thing with Isaiah Pacheco is I think he's a great complimentary back. I don't think he's a bell cow back. I don't think he can be your RB1. And I know they won a Super Bowl last year with him as the starter, and that's fine. But he cannot make a guy miss to save his life. Those screens that you can get him out on, they're cool when they work, but they only seem to work when Isaiah Pacheco has 10 yards of space in front of him with nobody even close, not a defender in sight. But if there's a defender even within 5 yards of him, it's like it goes for no gain. He can't make a guy miss. He has good straight line speed, but he's not super agile. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, even though he's got the better short area quickness, he doesn't have the speed to break away from anybody. So it's like you have these two running backs that have their strengths, but they have two very specific shortcomings that keep them from being your running back one, that keep them from being effective most of the time. Isaiah Pacheco, good complimentary back, but the run game this year just has not made me feel very inspired. I think the Chiefs need to add to the running back room this offseason. That's another element of this offense that they could go out and fix in the offseason. Then I don't know what they're going to do about the tackle spot. I don't know if they're going to make any splashes like just cut bait with Jawan Taylor or what, or if the thinking changes in the draft and they think they need a left tackle now. I don't know, but it's going to be interesting because this offense has a lot of issues once again. And it's like, even the tackles, this is an area in which Brett Veach has hit multiple times over the past few years, and it continues to be an issue. And if Brett Veach cannot hang his hat on the offensive line, because everyone wants to give him credit for fixing the offensive line, he's kind of fixed it. The interior is great, but this team has been a revolving door at the tackle position even since the offensive line rebuild a couple years ago. And if Brett Veach can't even hang his hat on that, then what is he really doing here as general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs? The defense is great. People will then point to the defense. Yeah, defense is great, but elite offense is worth more wins than an elite defense. This season is proof of that, and I've talked about that even in some more recent videos. And if you have to gut your offense just for the defense to be a top 10 unit, I don't think that's a great indictment of your skills as a general manager. I think this front office and Brett Veach was simply too high on their own evaluations. And again, they're going to have to wear this. And I don't think Brett Veach is going to get fired. I'm not calling for him to be fired, but his seat is definitely a little warm. He's going to have a chance to fix this offseason. But if he doesn't, then there's going to be some real tough questions to answer the next following offseason, because this was just a failure on all fronts from Brett Veach, and his offseason is starting to look really, really bad. And this is not the first time that he has had an offseason that looks really, really bad once the games are played. 2021, this team needed a wide receiver too, and that was very apparent. They needed another option on offense, and he failed to get one in the offseason, and then they made a desperation signing in Josh Gordon after the first 5 or 6 weeks. That didn't work out. And then they lost in the postseason because the offense fell apart. And I think a number 2 option would have fixed that. So Brett Veach, he has his flaws. I've been very critical of him. Now, I've given him his credit when the credit has been due. Last year, what was a gutsy offseason, they won the Super Bowl. But in the end, I think winning that Super Bowl with a scrappy wide receiver core kind of gave Veach false confidence that Mahomes was just going to figure it out with whoever at wide receiver this year. And clearly that plan has been a failure. I've been over that. Michael and I have been over that time and time again. That just was not a good plan from Brett Veach. But I've been talking about the offensive issues for about 15 minutes now, and the organizational failure for about 15 minutes now, and why this offense is so bad. But I'll start to wrap it up by saying this. I think you just, at this point in the season, have to readjust expectations, because otherwise you're going to be disappointed. This team cannot win a Super Bowl. I think they'd simply be embarrassed by any team with a pulse in the postseason. I think if this team were to face the Ravens in the postseason, that the Ravens would win by double digits, because the Chiefs simply can't score enough to keep up, and they're just going to have some stupid turnover to give the Ravens a free touchdown. That's just kind of what it's been all year long. I don't expect it to get fixed at this point. This team is going to limp into the playoffs most likely, and after that, I don't know if you can expect them to even win a game in the postseason. I don't really have that much confidence in them, guys, and I just don't know how you could. Some of you out there still think that they're going to somehow figure it out. I think we're past that point. I think if they were going to figure it out, it would have happened already. And even some people I talk to still think that they have that second gear that they can turn on in the playoffs. I just don't see it. I don't think there is another gear for this team. I think this is what they are, and we have to come to accept that. Because if that was the case, if this team had another level in which they could go to, we would have seen it by now in the regular season, because at this point, you can't just wait for the postseason to flip that switch. You have to flip that switch now just to make the playoffs. This team needs to worry about making the playoffs first. And that's a conversation that I did not think we were going to be having by this point in the season. This team had the AFC West wrapped up in week 8. and somehow they've let it slip this far that they could potentially lose the division. And who knows, man? I don't know. I'm out of words for this team. It's been really disappointing. It's been really pathetic. It's been really embarrassing. And that Christmas Day performance that they put out yesterday, I hate that people wasted time away from their families to watch that game, including myself. So that's all I got for this video. Let me know down in the comments what you think. What is your confidence level in this team making a postseason run? I'm going to take the temperature again of this fan base. So let me know down below. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. And make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com for more. I'll see you all in the next one. Go Chiefs!